excited to be here with you today. If you read this title and you're familiar with the way we do title cards, you probably think that this is some sort of bait and switch. It is not a bait and switch.
No.
This is the core point I'm going to be arguing in this episode is that some groups may feel love, but I suspect for the vast majority of humans, at least given myself and with my wife, I came to her the other day and I was like, I wasn't sure if you were going to be mad at me because we always end this show as like, I love you and everything like that. And I was like, Simone, I'm going to be honest. I don't feel some separate, distinct emotion that I can categorize as love. Like, and I think that what's really cool is if love is a myth, most people don't feel that they can say that they can go out and say, hey, this is a myth. Because either they're not in a deep, satisfying relationship. Mm-hmm. So they're in this position where people will just be like, oh, well, you haven't found love yet. Mm-hmm. Right. Or they are in a deep, satisfying relationship and people will just say, wait, does that mean that you don't really care about your wife? Does that mean you don't, it disconfirms being the person, the whistleblower on love to beat all these people like, hey, I'm not sure this is a real thing and we're going to be going through the receipts on it. Yeah. Is quite a costly thing to do unless you're in an incredibly secure position with your relationship. And so people know us. They know that I literally have no negative thoughts about my wife anymore. Like there are times in our relationship where like I had like minor beefs with you about this or that.
I drive you a little nuts on some fronts.
I don't even have minor beefs. The primary emotion that I feel towards you, like if I was going to categorize the primary emotions that I feel towards you, is admiration and a sense of debt for everything that you've invested in our family and aligned future.
Oh, same.
And I have other feelings. I have a feeling of attachment. I have a feeling of fondness. I have a feeling of sadness when you're not around or like a desire to be with you again. That's sort of like an addiction. I have arousal from you. I think that you're a very attractive woman, but dude, I can name all of those things.
Yeah. These are all separate and distinct things.
And I don't feel something other than these things that have a very commonly known name. And so I think that me coming out here and saying this is saying something that is sort of like, and I will note, I do think that quote unquote love is a real thing. But what I mean by that is I think that what we are calling love is a bundle of other emotions that have easily nameable names. Yeah. It's either new relationship energy is often mistaken for love when you're starting to date. For people who don't know, this is common in like the polyamory community. Mm-hmm. And it's that special feeling you get when you're dating someone you're excited about. Yeah. That dies down.
Your chest and your belly, the tinglies.
Yes, the tinglies, but new relationship energy is obviously not love.
No.
People call it love early. When somebody says like, do you love me or do you not love me? They're typically asking like, how much new relationship energy do you have for me?
Yeah.
The second thing that is often called love, and this is in relation to children, right? Is, and by the way, when I say like, this is what people are calling love, like this bundle of emotions. This is why when I tell my wife I love her at the end of every episode, I'm not lying to her. I am telling her I have this emotional set that other people are calling love. But with children, I think what is often called love is a bundle of emotions, but predominantly the emotion that psychologists call attachment. And in psychology, especially child development, attachment is treated as a unique emotional state. A child does not just like their caregiver, they feel a deep existential distress when separated and security when near.
Except
and that
for
is
our
what defines attachment. Distress when separated, security when near. But that's not love. That nobody.
That means our children don't love us, Malcolm. I swear to you.
No. I mean, I don't think they do. But I think a lot of people, they may hear this and they'll think this is really a semantic argument, right? You're being like, well, you have these emotional states, but they're not. And I'm like, actually, not only is it not a semantic argument, it's a very big deal that this misconception is had. And it's a very big deal because a lot of people, like if you look at the sort of normal Western relationship development, there is the moment when the partner says, I love you, right? And so somebody can be like, well, you're saying that, loving is really just a word that means fondness and attachment and arousal maybe, right? Mm-hmm. And it's like, well, if that is actually what everyone else means when they're saying the word love, then why do we have this ritual in relationships where people who otherwise like each other in all other formats like two people will be dating for a long time, like years sometimes, and one of them won't say I love you to the other one. And it's supposed to be this like big step in their relationship when they say I love you to them.
Yeah, and the other partner says, thanks.
Yeah, or I love you too, or whatever, right? But suppose they say this, and what love really means in our society is just fondness, arousal, and attachment, right? And maybe respect. In most of the instances in which I've seen a person doesn't say I love you in a relationship, and it's like a big deal within our media or something like that, they have all of those emotions. So clearly, it's explicitly sort of demonstrated to people that this word means something in addition to those things.
Well, and I think it causes conflict. Like, I think one of the reasons why people don't immediately say, I love you too, is because they think that there's some social contract that's being initiated when one partner says, I love you, but they're really not sure what that means. Like, okay, does this mean that you expect me to propose in 4 months? Because for some people, that kind of does. And I remember also feeling this way because your family, you grew up using I love you as a way to end a conversation. And I think you might have learned that from your mom. And your mom has like other people in her family had started to adopt it. And then they would start ending calls with I love you. And I, as like the daughter-in-law who wasn't like, I didn't know if I should say I love you too. So like, I know that feeling. I think a lot of people can really identify with that feeling of like, oh God, like what am I into now? Like, I think.
So no, but the point here being is think about the damage this could cause to a young person's relationship.
Oh,
they're dating somebody.
Girls have, I mean, this sounds like the kind of thing she'd post to Reddit. You know, should I break up with my boyfriend because he refuses to say he loves me too?
Well, of course, the guy's just trying to be honest. He's like, I don't feel some new emotion that is materially different from the way I felt about you up until now.
Yeah, like from day one.
Yeah. So what do you mean? Like, yeah. And then there's this secondary issue, which is so the person who's trying to be fastidiously honest ends up never saying it and hurting somebody else, right? Mm-hmm. Or they eventually break, like most people do in our society, and then just say it. And then they believe that they're lying to their partner and they're living a lie.
Yeah, that's not good. You don't want to start a relationship on that.
Right? Like, this is not a small thing if it turns out that this is not an other emotion, and it's not a particularly profound, like really, really loud emotion. And I should say, we are in a uniquely good spot to talk about this, not just because we're in a solid relationship, but also because we tick all of the boxes that people say break love. Like, I was the first person you slept with. You know, I was the first person you seriously hooked up with. I was the first person, right? Like, all of these things which are tied to like these bonding chemicals in women, like the oxytocin and everything like that, which create attachment, you have been exposed to, right? It's not just the quality of our relationship. It's literally check every single box.
That should produce what people say is pure love. So you're saying some people would argue that the problem many people don't experience love is that they've had too many partners or something like that, right?
Yes. They'll say, and we do know this, lowers the amount of oxytocin, which causes a collection of emotions that people call love, this sort of attachment, which we have, but it's not like a super profound emotion. It's like, I miss you when we don't talk, but it's not like all of a sudden, along with that missing you, some other emotion that felt really awesome came up and hit me as well.
There's some weird, like, poetic longing. There just seems to be this poetic element to this that I just don't.
Yeah. And note here, if it is a real emotion, and all I have found is just by coincidence, neither my wife or I feel it, what this means is that there are specific individuals out there who can be perfectly happy. In fact, my marriage is better than I ever could have imagined a marriage being, who can have perfectly happy and satisfying relationships without this extra emotion being a part of it, and that nothing will ever trigger this emotion in some people, if it is true that other people are having this emotion and we're just anomalies, which is another important thing to note. And I want to demystify this concept, because what love has become within our civilization is that basically it just means emotions that are above reproach. And so people will say things like Lex Friedman will come in and be like, but what about love? Mr. All of his degrees are from Drexel. I will never stop mentioning that. He's not an MIT professor.
R.I.P. your chance of ever being on his podcast.
Hey, look, he didn't let me online. He didn't get back to me. This is his fault. You know, he also, I don't like when people like are purposely going out there and basically defrauding people, like through the reputational fraud. You know, if you're not smart, just admit you're not that bright. Okay, that's fine.
Well, you can be bright and go to Drexel, but you're just being misleading. I mean, it implies a level of insecurity or just like, I don't know, whatever.
But anyway, the people like him. Sorry, Simone, you can't be smart and ever respond to somebody. What about love? That's like the ultimate basic B take.
Yeah, but true, I guess.
I know. That is, I have never heard anything more basic.
You refer to your friends as your boys. You love bacon so much that you ruin it for everyone else. And your preferred topic of conversation is how much you drank last night.
4 beers, 2 shots of Jack, 1 Red Bull, and vodka.
This is very serious, Gerald. Very seriously basic. The good news is, we caught your basicness early. If you can wean yourself off the guys only poker nights and stop referring to your basement as your man cave, you might be able to salvage a personality.
Actually, I haven't told you everything. I've noticed a strange feeling, like this area. I think I have a crush on Emma Watson.
Oh my God, that's basic.
He is trans smart. He is someone who identifies as smart, and therefore we need to affirm that identity.
No, but here's the thing, though, and like to your point about being afraid of being a whistleblower on the scam of love, I think that a really big issue at play here is that there are people, and we have friends who are like this too. Like, you know, we have our model of friendship, and we believe there are only 3 types of friends. There are convenience friends, who are like neighbors and colleagues who you're only friends with because they're literally there and convenient. There are character reinforcing friends, who are literally the supporting characters that you need to prove yourself that you are the character you want to be. And then there are utility friends, who provide useful information or connections, or they have the best video game console, and they are useful to you. And so therefore you're friends with them. And we have some friends who are like, but what about the people who you just love for their own inherent value? And who, like, we have people who say that to me, multiple different people. I think where we are with that is there's a lot of people who see themselves like they see themselves as loving, and that they respect humans, and that they literally could not reconcile what you're saying about love because it would break their sense of self. So I don't think it's necessarily a sign of stupidity. I think it could also be a flaw in their character design, and that they're like, literally they would have to admit that a huge part of their identity is just a sort of performative
fraudulent. No, I think that people who base a lot of their character identity, and I will say that there is an emotion that is misidentified as love, that can exist towards like the world as a whole or society as a whole,
or God or any, yes.
It's an emotion that is generated when you think about something that is complicated and not fully knowable, that gives you a sense of comfort, and that is also like not fully grokkable in the moment, like the all of reality. Like when you think about the true nature of the cosmos and how big it is, or the true time links of all of your ancestors and everything they went through, or God itself, right? Or himself. Sorry, I don't want to be somebody who implies that God is a genderless. You get this feeling that people call a form of love. And I'm like, yeah, but this is clearly not what we're talking about when we're talking about like romantic love, right? Like, this is obviously some other and quite a trite and easy to trigger emotion. You can trigger it whenever you think about something that is vast and gives you a sense of security, and that is complex, slightly more complex in your understanding. So it's a feeling you might get when you like contemplate the nature of the Trinity, because the Trinity is intrinsically not understandable, and so you'll get this feeling. Or contemplate the nature of, you know, consciousness, or all of humanity, or the Gaia, or like Earth and all of the biomes that make it up. But this is obviously not what we mean when we're talking about love as like this magical thing that bonds you to somebody. It's clearly this like easily trickable and hackable emotional state that isn't magic or anything like that. So what I want to do is I want to go through the science around this, what creates love.
Ooh, okay.
I want to go through, because some people are born with different genetics that cause them to express emotions like lust and love differently.
It's so interesting. Yeah, just how like some people taste the bitterness in broccoli and other people literally can't, and you can see if you have that gene. Yeah, it would make sense that love would be experienced differently too, of course.
we're going to go through the history of this, and I'm going to show you that the concept of love as we understand it today is something different from arousal or attachment or fondness, started very specifically and easily traceably to the culture of courtly love, to the culture of chivalry. This was a culture that was, if you go to books of this time period, they were written by either horny troubadours or celibate monks, very frequently
Fan
by celibate
fiction.
monks.
Yeah.
They were basically the incels of the time writing stories about romancing some woman.
That's great.
And the problem is that because they were godly men and stuff like that, they couldn't say, I have this hole in my life, and this hole is lust and attachment and the desire to possess someone. And so I'm going to define the emotion that I feel for them as above reproach. And I am going to call this new emotional state love. And what we will see, because I'm going to go through this, is that actually this isn't a common concept cross-culturally. And where it is seen cross-culturally, it's usually seen as a negative emotion.
Oh, okay.
The idea that you would feel an attachment to somebody outside of like the best interest of both of your families is seen as a negative emotion. And while there have been studies, and I'll go over these studies, that say that like 88% of cultures have some concept of love, if you look at how they're defining love, they'll say it's like a fondness, like I'd be sad if they died, I'd be sad if they were away from me. I'm like, bro, I feel that way for my wife, right? And I'm admitting that I don't have this separate other emotion. So clearly those aren't what love is.
Yeah.
What love is this secondary, overwhelming, and clearly distinct emotion that we have made up in Western culture. And very strangely, it's become like this weird thing in relationships. Like, they haven't said they love me yet. Like,
it's this weird performative thing of, when do you say I love you? And do they say I love you back right away?
I'm putting this on the table. And it's like this weird emotional thing. And we might get a chance, I don't know how much time we're going to have in this, to go over some other emotions that I think are mostly made up.
Oh.
Two of which I think are jealousy. I think jealousy is mostly made up.
No, what?
Have you ever felt, I'm not talking about like your partner sleeping with somebody else, but have you ever felt distinct, you may have felt like this person unjustly has a lot of stuff that I wish I had.
No, you're describing envy. Jealousy is when you're trying to protect a thing that you think someone else is going to try to take from you. Like a jealous lover.
Not.
Yeah. Envy is when you want something you don't have. Jealousy.
No, jealousy is when you want something that somebody else has.
No, that's envy.
And it makes you dislike them as a result of this.
That's envy.
Okay, well, I'll let you AI this while I keep going, Simone.
Yeah.
Oh, did the AI not agree with you?
Oh, hold on.
My lovely princess. Are you trying to get it to agree with you now because it didn't agree with you?
Jealousy is wanting what someone else has. Envy is the
same. Told you.
I'm wrong. Oh my God.
Told you. So, but jealousy has a secondary implication, which is not just you want what somebody else has, but this wanting makes you like dislike them or angry at them. And I think that that's just like a social construct that
that's just you choosing to be a jerk.
Jealous. It's like you choosing to be petty and a jerk. And I think you can just choose to not be jealous.
Yeah, and to like really understand that the world's not fair.
The other one I might talk about is forgiveness. I don't think forgiveness is a real concept either.
I'm with you on that.
Yeah. Either like nothing changes in the moment. I'm just like, oh, I'm choosing to not hold this against you anymore. But that's just like a choice. It's not like an emotion or a But anyway, to keep going here, because I want to go into the ancient Greeks, because people will be like, well, the ancient Greeks had this concept.
Okay.
Okay, the linguistic evidence is particularly compelling. Many languages don't have a single word that maps onto the English love, which they would if this was a widespread human emotion. Ancient Greece has multiple words, which I think is more honest about what it is. Because remember I said, I think that this is multiple distinct emotions that have other words.
Yeah.
Eros, desire,
or
what we would call lust.
Yeah.
Philia, we would call friendship. Storge, what we would call familial affection, certainly not love, and agape, which is universal compassion. This is the agape. Remember I said that this is this emotion.
Oh yeah, like I love the world.
Big things.
Yeah, that sort of Baba Yetu feeling.
Exactly.
Yeah. Yeah.
Suggesting they saw these as fundamentally different experiences. And note here, to me, this is pretty strong evidence that a lot of humans don't feel this emotion. If the entire Greek civilization was able to get by without anyone thinking this emotion needed a name, and them being able to have debates where they clearly talk about, and we'll go into these debates later, marriage and the way I feel for my wife, while describing something very different than what the modern concept of love is. And I'll go into Plato's Symposium, because in that they talk about what is this emotion that you feel, or this bundle of emotions that you feel, when you're married to somebody and blah, 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 right?
Mm-hmm.
And so it basically had different speeches that gave different iterations on what this may be. And I think that they're pretty good at describing it. Pausanias' speech, he explicitly divides eros into vulgar, so this is the concept of lust, right?
Okay.
Into a vulgar tied to physical arousal and body gratification, often indiscriminate, and heavenly, a virtuous intellectual bond between partners focused on character and wisdom rather than just desire or affection.
Oh, I guess sapiosexual.
Well, not even sapiosexual. I mean, I think that would describe our relationship, right? Like an intellectual bond between partners focused on character and wisdom rather than desire or affection.
Totally.
But I don't think that that's this distinct magical emotion. It's more like admiration is the closest word I have to it. And I think that it is a form of admiration. Mm-hmm. This distinguishes between love as a moral elevated state, and not merely lust or fondness. Heavenly love inspires self-improvement in the beloved beyond attachment, which we've always talked about in our relationship, is that self-improvement is a core goal. And I would say that this heavenly form of the vulgar or of eros is not even in the category that most people consider love, even though I would consider it to be the highest form of emotional attachment.
Yeah, you even had an ex-girlfriend who left you because she felt like you primarily loved her for the intellectual engagement you had.
Yes.
And she wanted you to like vulgarly lust after her.
Yeah, she's like, you always call me beautiful and whatever. Actually, this is two different girls who had, one broke up with me at this, the other had issues. One just been like, you only liked me for my brain. And I was like, yeah.
The nerve.
I mean, you're hot, but like, I primarily like you because of your intellect. And this other guy liked her for her body, I guess. And good for her. I'm sure anyone who saw what's happened in my life would probably prefer to be married to me, but I'm glad that worked out for her. She broke up with the guy shortly after, by the way. So it didn't even, this is in college. It's sophomore year of college, freshman year of college. And then the next one, by the way, securing a good girlfriend freshman year of college, that's hard. Because that's when you're playing ultra hard.
I don't know if I'd want my kids to settle down with their freshman love.
My brother did. That's who he married.
That's true, actually. Okay, never mind. I stand corrected. They're solid.
Freshman in college, yeah.
Yeah.
Then the second one, this was the one who was at our wedding as a groomsman, actually. This person didn't transition or anything. It's just that she was my friend, and so we had her in a suit and everything, and I consider her very close friend. But anyway, so she one day got mad at me because she goes, you always tell me hot and what was it? No, it was beautiful. She's like, you always call me beautiful. And you never call me like hot or sexy or anything like that. And I feel like no one ever sees me that way. And like, actually, if you've seen her, you get it. I don't know if you like know the difference between like beautiful and hot and sexy, but she definitely is like beautiful above all else.
Well, that's
like,
so the problem is she's extremely classy.
Yeah.
And there's a level of class at which you just can't sexualize someone.
Yeah, she's at that level of class where it's very hard to sexualize. She was Daisy Buchanan level of class. Like Daisy Buchanan isn't sexy ever, right?
Yeah.
Like,
and like, not to say that she isn't sexy, but like you won't sexualize her because you're too busy admiring the beauty. Like,
yeah.
There's something very, like, if you're trying to like max up the sexuality dial on someone, there is kind of this trashiness thing that you also like, you have to put in trashy points. Like you can't be maximum sexy if you're not also a little trashy.
Agree.
Also, you know what? I think part of it is that, and you can see this in a lot of erotic material that men watch, a big part of being sexy is like really enthusiastic. Like, I need you. Like, I'm so excited to suck on your, you know what? And a classy woman is a little bit too aloof for that kind of
absolutely.
That element of being sexy. And so they can't be 100% sexy because that's like a good, at least 30+% of what sexiness is in a woman. I think.
Yeah. Anyway, to continue, Aristophanes' speech. So this is the next one in the Plato thing. Love is mythologized as a deep existential longing for one's other half after humans were split by Zeus, portraying it as a drive for wholeness and union that causes emotional turmoil, but isn't just arousal. It's not always sexual or attachment. It's obsessive and incomplete without the partner. This frames love as a unique psychological state of binding of partners separate from casual fondness. And I would say that, again, this is an accurate thing that I feel for my wife. But I do not think that this is the love that other people are talking about, this desire to be a single entity. And we often talk about this, where if you look at other people where like they see marriage as like a combining of two individuals, and we don't like when I mean like two people who stay individuals, I see the primary unit of self as the family.
Yeah.
The secondary unit of self is me plus my wife. Tertiary unit of self is me as an individual entity. But this is a recontextualization of what it means to be me and what is the most important instance of me within reality. I am a cell within an organism that I exist to serve.
Yeah.
And the cells doesn't matter exactly. But that's not love. That's just a recontextualization of identity that's healthy to happen after marriage. And then you have later Aristotle, 350 BCE, in Neimenian Ethics, he differentiates philia, a form of love akin to deep friendship, into types: utility-based, practical attachment; pleasure-based, arousal, fondness; and virtue-based, the highest mutual and reciprocal, fostering moral growth. Which again, we talk about it as like in a Pygmalion relationship or something like that in our book, but that's not what other people are talking about when they're talking about love. They don't. In fact, our modern culture is antithetical in its conception of love to love applying to moral growth, because the most common thing that you hear within our modern culture is, I hope you love me as I am. I want somebody who loves me as I am without growth. If it implied moral growth, it wouldn't be an as I am phenomenon.
Yeah.
Whereas with us, actually, when we got married, we didn't even promise to love each other, because I was like, I can't control my emotions.
Not at all. And we explicitly said as much in our wedding vows.
But I said that I will push you to improve every day. And I know that you care about me because you push me to improve every day, which is, I think, a very different thing from modern. If we were going to recontextualize love as being with somebody who pushes you to morally improve every day and improve yourself every day, I'm like, oh yeah, I can get behind it. Like that's a real emotion I have towards 100%. My life. 100%. That's not what other people. That's not what Lex Friedman is talking about when he goes, "What about love?"
Yeah,
he's talking about an emotion that is defined by its irreproachability and sacredness, and the fact when people are like, God is love. And note, for those who want to say that this argument is just semantics and we're just using different definitions here, we are absolutely not. Individuals, when they say something like, but what about love? They're clearly not talking about these fairly trivial emotional states like attachment, like just feeling, irritated when you're not around someone or something like that. They are talking about some alternate emotional state which feels near transcendent and is irreproachable. And we are saying that emotional state does not exist, at least as an output from relationships.
No, I almost feel like it's kind of it's downstream of this chivalric love fantasy that was created in incel monk fan fiction, basically. That
no, it is
that like never really existed, and that it implies this like poetic performativeness of like, oh my darling love, and I, this pining and like all this weird stuff that is neither productive nor realistic. And it was literally by people who lived in single gender environments with no interaction, no relation.
And then you've got Ovid, who then tackles the subject. This is in Rome, so 43 BCE to 17 CE. In Roman literature, like Amoris Ars Amati, love is depicted as chaotic, obsessive emotion involving jealousy, pursuit, and emotional turmoil, often satirized as a disease or an artful game. It's distinct from pure lust, which he treats separately as carnal or fondness, casual liking, emphasizing psychological manipulation and longing that binds lovers in dramatic, sometimes tragic ways. This is, I think, closest to the modern concept of love. We've just removed any implication that it could have these negative effects, where it's like, oh, well, yes, love is this thing that causes you to act jealous, i.e. like overly protective of an individual. This is a modern concept, right? Or gives you the right to act that way. You know what I mean? Like, again, I don't believe jealousy is a thing. I think it's a social contract of a set of rights that you believe that you have. And no, when I say I don't believe jealousy is a thing, we'll get to this if we get to this. This is not to say that you do not feel something when your partner sleeps with someone other than you, but this is an evolved state that is not what people mean when they say jealousy. It's more like a sense of disgust and anger that is like obviously useful from like a reproductive capacity perspective. But this sort of like manipulative iteration of love is, I think, closer to what the modern person means when they say love. And most other cultures saw it as quite negative. I will note that before courtly love, you get some sort of like prototypical ideas of this modern concept of love from early Christian thinkers. So you've got St. Paul in 50 to 60 CE in letters like Corinthians 1, agape is unconditional, sacrificial love, i.g. patient, kind, and not envious, modeled in Christ's self-giving, which I think is sort of this proto-love. It's like whatever Christ felt towards humanity is this emotion that we're going to define as love.
But it sounds more like maybe what a parent too would feel for their child.
Exactly. So it works well, but it's more like if you just look at it, it's more just self-sacrifice. Like, I don't think that that's something different than self-sacrifice for something that you either for ideological reasons or for attachment reasons feel attached to, right? Then you have St. Augustine in 400 CE. He emerges eros and agape into carteris, a yearning for God as the ultimate good, but applies it to human bonds as a path to eternal fulfillment. It's portrayed as restless, ascending desire. Our hearts are restless until they rest in you. Separate from capitalist, worldly lust for fondness or transience, emphasizing a spiritual union over physical or habitual. And note here, the words that he's mixing here are agape, which is like that word I said is like love for like the universe, or love for like, remember I talked about like that word that you feel when you're dealing with like these complicated concepts, with eros, which means lust. So he's saying
weird. It's like I want to mind
F God.
Screw you. Yeah.
But I think that I'll put here the scene from South Park, which is I want to get down on my knees and start pleasing Jesus.
Oh gosh, okay.
I want to get down on my knees and start pleasing Jesus. I want to feel his salvation all over my face.
The CD is filled with instant classics. Who doesn't remember?
The body of Christ, sleek, swimmer's body, all muscled up and toned. The body of Christ, oh what a body, I wish I could call it my own. You once had.
There you go.
Which is kind of, by the way, I don't know if you know this, but when Matt Stone and Trey Parker wrote these, they had actually planned under a pseudonym before this to attempt to create a Christian rock band that became popular, but they wanted all the songs to be of this category of song,
right?
Where it sounded like the person was actually like in love with God, or Jesus. And they were like, we wanted to see how long we could stay under the cover.
Why didn't they?
But they decided it was too much work. And I'm like, this is so sad that didn't happen in our timeline.
That is really
Matt Stone and Trey Parker take over the Christian rock scene with songs about pleasing Jesus. I want to get down on my knees and start pleasing Jesus. I want to feel his salvation all over my face.
Oh, lost opportunity.
Lost opportunity to be in that timeline. But now here, people will be like, well, you see it in some other places than just courtly love. Like, what about Muslim writings? And this, I think, is really interesting because I think he does a good job of breaking down the way people actually feel about their partners versus this magical love emotion, which is proposed. And some people probably feel pretty insecure about not feeling because they don't realize that everyone else is just pretending. We're trying to break this is going to come back to haunt us. Some articles are going to be like, they don't even love each other. But I'm going to be like, hey, whatever you guys are calling love, we're just honest and secure enough in our relationship to be like,
everyone else is just deluding themselves.
Shenanigans. This isn't real. That guy, when he says I love you, he's just waiting as long as he can to decide when he needs to say that to get to F you or whatever, right? Or to continue the length of the relationship, to basically efface himself by our cultural standards, but he probably doesn't feel some new emotional state towards you.
No. And the funny thing though is I feel like there's this tacit understanding that that's true. It's just people are really uncomfortable admitting that because I think people think they'll be branded as a sociopath or unfeeling or unkind if they do that.
Yeah. So this was written in 2022 CE, the Ring of the Dove. The Arabic treatise systematically describes romantic love, ishqa, as a psychological and emotional process with stages. And I think this is accurate as well, right? Like it's not a distinct emotion. It's a set of emotions that come on in stages that have other names. Specifically, attraction, obsession, jealousy, sleeplessness, and even chaste devotion or unrequited suffering. Ibn Harams, drawing from personal experiences, like his infatuation with a maid. Note, by the way, here, he got this for a maid that he was infatuated with. It is not what we would call love, right?
Okay.
Portrays it as a noble, soul-binding affection that can be pure and elevating, not just lust, which he separates at the base. And again, or fondness, casual affection. And note here, what you often see when people have love is they have lust and new relationship energy for an individual who they know they're not supposed to be with. And so they then rebrand it as something above reproach.
Okay.
For example, he discusses love signs like gazing and secrecy, framing it as a distant malady of the heart that unites lovers spiritually, even if unconsummated. And some scholars have seen this as a progenitor to the courtly love concept. So European literature did create its idealized, almost spiritual concept of romantic love that was quite different from earlier views of marriage, primarily as an economic and social arrangement. But I'll note here, this is the biggest pullback on all of this. It is actually kind of weird that evolution didn't build a love emotion, that it seemed to just grab a number of other emotions and tie them together. And so
like you say in all our books, evolution's a lazy programmer. What are you going to do?
Evolution's a lazy programmer, just takes what's already there. So a combination of emotions that drives. The American Psychological Association defines love as a quote unquote complex emotion involving affection, tenderness, attachment, and sometimes arousal. Researchers like Carol Izzard, so right now I'm just going over what the various like scientific fields say on this, have noted that love can be joy combined with interest in another person. Note again, this is what the scientists who study this say. None of these are what our pop culture would say as love.
No.
They define it as this other magical emotion that like you'll know it when you feel it, right? I mean, these people are like, no, it's just joy with fondness, right? And it's like, okay, well, clearly I have that for my wife.
Yeah.
But I don't have this other magical emotion that warrants people like Lex Friedman saying, but what about love?
But again, when you express any doubt around it, you are completely pilloried. Like there's this famous interview between a journalist and the newly married or maybe engaged Prince Charles and Princess Diana, when they're like, oh, are you in love? And she immediately says, yes. And he's like, whatever that means.
Whatever that means.
And I suppose in love. Of course. Whatever in love means.
It's so honest.
It's
so true. And yet he just like, he will never live that down. Never.
Yes, because everyone's like, he doesn't have but he's,
he doesn't love her.
He was the first whistleblower in the world of love.
Yes, yes, never forget.
Yes, so Helen Fisher's work frames romantic love not as an emotion at all, but as a motivational state, overlapping with systems for lust, attraction, and attachment, which again is not what other people call love. And then a review by Adam Bodhi and Ghosh Krishna echoes this, calling romantic love a suite of adaptations, including cognitive, emotional, and behavioral elements for mate choice bonding rather than a singular feeling. Ruh-roh. But let's go into the neuroscientific backing. Brain scans show love activating multiple systems, reward dopamine for a high. This is like what you get from drugs like heroin. Attachment, oxytocin for bonding. This is the attachment system. And even obsession, which again, addiction. So what people are describing here is a combination of an addiction system and an attachment system, but not a unique love center. One of the most cited studies here is a 1992 paper that showed love appearing in approximately 88.5% of cultures, created by the anthropologist William Jakowak and Edward Fisher, examined technologies of these cultures. But what did they call love? Like, how do they determine whether or not these cultures had love?
Yeah.
Well, did they have songs about passionate longing? Did they have songs about unrequited love, defined as one person wanting another partner? Or did they have folk tales of lovers eloping? Again, that's not love as we mean it today, or evidence of that.
No.
Or unaliving over unrequited love, or unrequited wanting somebody
Is that
else.
a thing?
Well, I mean, Romeo, Juliet, yeah, it's like a thing. But yeah, this is like this is one of these things where it's like, I can't see, like, if I didn't have a bunch of kids with you and you died, even without this emotion, I would almost certainly unalive myself. But we have a lot of kids and I have other responsibilities now.
Yeah, you're
so
super not allowed to do that, by the way.
I understand. But I'm just saying that's very much the way I would feel about the world, even without this emotion, right? That's not evidence that a culture has this emotion. And so when you look at these studies that find this in other cultures, what you realize is the things that they are defining as this is something that people normally have if they're in a long-term relationship with someone they have a deep admiration for, even if, and have intertwined their lives with, even if they don't have this separate quote unquote magical emotion on top of that. A 2018 study on core features of romantic love models found culturally universal elements like altruism and intrusive thinking about the beloved, alongside variables like sexual exclusivity in ethnological data from multiple regions. Yeah, but the problem is I have all of those things too, and I wouldn't say I have this separate love emotion.
No, yeah.
That's not evidence for it. More recent large-scale surveys, such as a 2024 study against 90 countries, showed people worldwide are generally unwilling to commit to a long-term partner without whatever they defined as quote-unquote romantic love. What they really just meant here was liking the person. And it's like, well, okay, buddy, that's an easy thing to have, right? Like, that's not this separate emotion that you're talking about here. Or actually, we can end now. There's actually a lot more to go in this episode.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No, it's okay. We're going to go over a bunch of early cultures and see how they were generally against whatever this bundle of emotions is that we call love. And it didn't become seen positively until it's seen positively within a few rare cultures historically and within this modern culture, but that's it.
I'd even argue, based on the collective relationship advice videos that I've watched, from the 50s that are in my playlist.
Yeah.
That even they are like, one, just control your lust, get a hold of yourself. And then two, like they really want people to form practical adult relationships to create a household.
I'm going to argue, and I think that this is true, is that the emotion that we call love today, it was mostly popularized by Disney movies, which borrowed from chivalric literature. And for Disney movies' popularity, nobody thought like this. Nobody thought that there was some separate emotion that like made it ultra clear to you that this person was your one and only. But Disney movies needed a way to show an attraction to a partner in a way that was above moral reproach. So
and it also wasn't like wasn't sexual, but also wasn't about housework. And I feel like you can even see the difference between Snow White, where first she demonstrates she's a really good housewife because she cleans for 7 men. And then, then she gets to marry within her station because she's, let's not do interclass marriage, guys.
Yeah, she's actually.
But she's really just gonna, clean the castle now. It's fine, guys.
Love your rebranding of the story, but it's so true. It's that she shows she's a top tier wife by cleaning for 7 men and dealing with men of all emotional ranges, grumpy, sleepy, etc.
Sleepy, yes.
with a plum. And then she marries a man of her own class.
Yeah. And then later it's like, it's only in the 70s, 80s, 90s, et cetera, that we see this chivalric love where it's like romantic, it was more just like, oh, well, you need
fairly modern as a concept.
Because it's gross if you married minors, like you.
Yeah, don't marry the minors.
Yeah. All right, I'll stop recording then. For the Wagyu, I'm assuming that I'm gonna cut it into steaks for tonight and make you guys pan-seared steak, and then we'll figure out what to do with the remaining.
I really love your pan-seared steak in olive oil.
No, in butter, dude. Olive oil has a really low smoke point, and then it becomes carcinogenic. So we want to always
cook it in butter and then serve it with olive oil to be on the side. Because I remember putting the steak after you cook it in olive oil.
Don't you have the herbed butter, the expensive
Oh, the herb butter
with
is
the
so good.
truffle
Yeah, do the herb butter. Okay, you know what's up.
This is gifted Australian Wagyu. We are not screwing this up. This is high stakes. Oh,
High stakes. You
with
This
that,
is
sir,
why I
I
don't
leave you.
love you, Simone. But I hope anyone who sees us interacting, when we say this, and the reason I feel comfortable saying this is because I think the way I feel about my wife is as fond of a human being as any other human is capable of being. And because I'm at this stage in my relationship, I'm able to finally come out and be like, guys, no matter how deep in the tunnel you go, you don't find these diamonds. They're not there.
There's no
It's
love.
a made up thing. Everybody said, go to and everybody thinks they're like, well, that's just proof that you're not really working in the tunnel. And it's like, no, like I'm at the other end of the tunnel, basically.
Yeah. Yeah, sweeties. Guys. Anyway,
All
okay,
right, love
off I
you to
go.
death. Have a great day.
Wagyu and homemade sourdough. I'm so excited. I love you.
Hello, Simone, back in because this was a long one, so it's stretching over 2 days of recording. And I collected data to go into all the science behind like what changes when you love someone and the chemicals that are released. And these chemicals are actually released in a bunch of other instances as well, and seem more to do with a lot of them are evolved in addiction.
Oh, totally. And we knew this because the experiment that I tried when we first met was I met Malcolm as part of this campaign I had when I turned 24 that I wanted to fall in love and have my heart broken in 1 year. Because I was like, I genuinely even believed at that age that love was not real. But I still, like, everyone sang songs about it, wrote poetry about it. I was like, well, I'm going to try it. And I might disprove it. And I made you break up with me on July 31st of that year because I wanted to see what heartbreak felt like. There's no such thing as heartbreak, but there is such a thing as drug withdrawal. And I know exactly what that felt like because it kicked in a week after.
First, you were like, I don't feel anything. Everyone else is being wacko about this. And then apparently you like collapsed in the street one day or like.
Yeah. And then I just started crying and I couldn't stop crying. And then, I was just super emotional. And I have absolutely felt.
But the emotion you were feeling was
hormonal. It was hormonal. It was about withdrawal from a hormonal cocktail. The only time I've felt something similar is the postpartum experience, which is also experience of an extreme like shift in hormones. And what had happened was, yes, I developed like an addiction to you based on all the stuff that had happened as we dated and became sexually intimate. So again, you're totally right there. I just want to emphasize that point. There wasn't. Because if there was some like thing like love, which is kind of like people being like, there's a soul. If there was really love, I would have felt it from day one after the breakup, or as soon as I am logically processed.
Yeah, but and not just that. Throughout the entire process of our early dating, you didn't feel some other unexplained emotion that you had never felt before, right?
Correct.
Like, you felt the withdrawal, but you didn't feel this extra love emotion that you could have been like one day, oh, now I know I'm in love with Malcolm and I wasn't in love with Malcolm yesterday.
Yeah, it's not like you've discovered a new flavor like umami. It's no. Yeah.
Yeah. And so I think that that's really important to note. So what we are going to jump into, though, is what I actually think triggers the various love emotions, because we wrote about this in The Pragmatist Guide to Sexuality, which some of our fans still haven't read. So a useful thing to go into before we go into some of the other cultures that, don't really elevate love or see it as a negative thing.
Perfect.
So romantic love appears to be triggered by complexity. The complexity of an idea or person appears to correlate with feelings of romantic love. Time, the amount of time we spend thinking about something may trigger feelings of romantic love. The belief that a thing can protect and comfort us, feeling supported by something in a moment of personal vulnerability may trigger feelings of romantic love. Prolonged eye contact, in addition to triggering feelings of romantic love, looking at eyes elicits all sorts of weird, unique psychological effects. For example, if you paint eyes on a collection box, people will donate more money. And if people see fake eyes painted on something, they will act more morally in general. There is clearly a unique neurological pathway associated with processing the concept of eyes. So it may make sense that it could be involved in love. And note, there's the famous Kinsey study experiment where you sit across from somebody, you look in their eyes and you ask vulnerable questions. And people from this study reported feeling love for the other person after this and getting married when a couple even did. So like clearly this can be at the deepest level hacked pretty easily. Physical intimacy, interaction while violating personal space, assuming the violation of personal space doesn't put a person's guard up, may trigger feelings of romantic love. This might be tied to the vulnerability trigger. And sex. Maybe orgasms matter here, maybe they don't, but sex and arousal seem to make other love systems bond faster. This trigger seems to affect women more than men and weaken with subsequent sex partners. Through understanding the above points, one can incite love in a target individual with an even higher fidelity than the methods used by Arthur Aaron. And that's the guy who did the experiments where people fall into love after looking at each other in the eyes.
Yeah, creepy.
The feeling, specifically the feeling of love, can be reliably instigated in a subject by combining regular sex with a few sessions in which you sit with the subject somewhat isolated with a view. Even better if there is some taboo associated with the location, which increases the feeling of vulnerability and protectedness. Hold hands, make prolonged direct eye contact, discuss life philosophy. That's really it. That will create love.
If someone forced me to do that.
Oh, no, in the Bay Area, this is really common because people are familiar with the research and they think that other people won't know what they're doing, but they're basically attempting to brainwash you. I know I saw rationalists do this all the time. It was very common at like rationalist meetings and stuff.
Yeah, actually, when we went to Vibe Camp, I met someone who like talked about how they were deeply against that practice, and they're like, I don't make eye contact with people anymore because that's been used to manipulate me a bunch. It's like, oh gosh, what have you been through?
But it just is.
Yeah.
This technique takes about a week and a half to strongly set in and is generally effective as long as the target feels comfortable enough to be vulnerable and talk about things they otherwise wouldn't feel safe discussing. An adequate level of comfort, aesthetic appeal, and hygiene is also necessary. A target is not going to tolerate prolonged close proximity and eye contact with someone who has horrid breath or stinking hair, and a target will not be able to engage in deep philosophical conversations if they are tired, hungry, cold, and feeling threatened or trapped. The above technique boasts an admirable success rate on people with little sexual experience, explaining the steps and the purpose of the quote-unquote experiment to the target, which we would recommend in the name of good form, does not appear to lower the probability of this method working. So this is something I did to people and told them I would do to them, and I could reliably create a very strong attachment to me. The method is not from any specific set of research finding, but rather a conglomeration of a few studies combined with personal experimentation. It works reliably enough that we assume that there must be something behind it. This technique revolves around three core elements. 1, maximizing feelings of vulnerability backed up by feelings of safety. 2, physiological modifiers like eye contact and sex. And 3, complex cognitively engaging discussions that inspire self-reflection. Read The Pragmatist's Guide to Life if you don't know how to make these. Statistics on romantic love in arranged marriages strongly indicate that romantic love between people forms when they spend a lot of time around each other and rely on each other, or whatever we socially are calling romantic love. We developed the process outlined above merely to see if romantic love could be developed more rapidly. Our brains appear to use complexity rather than closeness as the proxy for the closeness of a relationship, just as one might use weight as a proxy for the volume of a thing or how much water is in a container, despite there being many other things that could have weight, such as rocks. Our minds appear to use the apparent complexity of a person or the frequency with which we think about that person as a proxy from our intimacy to them. So basically what I'm saying here is a lot of people think what generates the feeling of love, and this is why things like thinking about the cosmos or thinking about the Trinity or thinking about other like really deep philosophical issues or sort of unknowable issues can generate a feeling that is close to the feeling that some people call love, because these are very complex things. And the brain, you know, in Indiana Jones, the opening scene where there's the golden statue and he switches it with a bag of sand, it's the exact same weight. The brain doesn't actually note how much have you been thinking about someone or how do you feel about someone. Those are too complicated of emotions for it to really weight and measure with such a simple system. All it's measuring is the complexity of your thoughts about that individual. And that can be easily hacked by thinking about the nature of the universe or reality or something like that and create a very similar one of these emotions, the agape emotion that I mentioned before, which is not traditional love. It's a sort of awe emotion, I think is a closer like definition for it, but it's something that you can get from either individuals or from thinking about the universe, etc., meditating. This is an elegant system. Humans spend very little time thinking about or building models of people who are not romantic targets. We just don't think about other people that much unless we are trying to get said people to mate with us. If someone is successful in their romantic conquest, they will spend more and more time around their romantic target, further increasing the complexity of their mental image of that person. So the complexity of our image of a person could prove as a valid proxy for success in romantic conquest. This could in turn increase the evolutionary advantage of falling in love with such a person. In short, since those whom we think about the most commonly are those who we romantically pursue, the complexity of our mental models of others serves as a great proxy for our subconscious to measure when determining who/what we love. And by here, I think that this doesn't go against my larger thing that love doesn't really exist. I'm just saying that the chemical state that causes the collection of emotions that we already have easy names and ways to relate to, and that clearly aren't this like magical emotion that hits you all of a sudden one day when you're in a relationship, these are not like big, profound feeling things. And I think that that's the thing about love is it's been sold to people as something that is going to feel really profound. And that's another reason why it's important to debunk that it is not its own unique, above reproach, profound emotional state, because some people might not get married because they're just like, well, I haven't felt to this emotion yet, right? In fact, I would bet a lot of people who run away from weddings, this is what causes it, like called off weddings.
Some feeling that there's this fleeting, unrealistic, non-existent thing that they haven't yet felt.
Yeah, they're like, but I just haven't felt the thing that people call love yet. Like everything else seems perfect, but I haven't felt this yet. In short, those whom, now let's go into various societies that saw love quite differently. There's this idea that, oh no, everyone always sees love the same. And I'm like, actually, no, the anthropology that did that really cheesed their results, as I pointed out. So you got ancient Rome, 753 BCE to 576 CE. In Roman society, marriage was primarily an arrangement between families to enhance wealth, social class, and political standing, with little emphasis on affection or romance. Parents selected partners based on practical criteria, and laws restricted unions, i.e., citizens couldn't marry actors or prostitutes. Romantic love was often secondary or viewed negatively. Being overly influenced by a partner, especially a woman, was considered weakness, unfit of a true Roman man. I mean, you see this in a lot of Roman literature and poetry. And women's sexual pleasure outside of procreative purposes in marriage was deemed evil. Ceremonies emphasized the duty and family obligations, not passion, and divorce was straightforward if the arrangement failed to in its practical goals. Then you have ancient Greece, 800 BCE to 146 BCE. Greek philosophers and literature portray romantic love as dangerous madness or illness that disrupted rational thought and societal order. Plato, for instance, advocated for non-romantic platonic bonds as superior, viewing passion with horror because it could lead to regrettable actions harmful to the community. And then the Iliad served as warnings against love's destructive potential rather than endorsements. Marriages were typically arranged for economic or familial reasons, with love regulated to extramarital affairs or same-sex mentorships. A survival dependent on practical unions like combining resources during hardships. Ancient Mesopotamia, 3500 BCE to 539 BCE. In Mesopotamian countries, the Sumerians and Babylonians, marriage was essential for societal, community, family lineage, and property inheritance, often arranged to ensure these goals. Romantic love was not primarily a factor. Medieval Europe, 5th through 15th century. Among nobility and landowners, marriages and strategic alliances for power, wealth, often arranged by parents and guardians, with romantic love dismissed as impractical or destabilizing. Traditional South Asian cultures, India, Pakistan, etc., arranged marriages are the norm. We'll actually get deeper into India because I think it's really interesting. And then traditional East Asian cultures, Confucian principles emphasize familial piety and family harmony, making arranged marriages standard to align with parental authority and societal roles. And love would conflict with the concept of duty within these relationships or within Confucius philosophy. What's really interesting is how anti-love Indians were, historically speaking. There are 8 forms of marriage in Hinduism. So in ancient Hindu texts,
were they like?
We'll get to it. It'll make sense as I get to it.
Okay.
Such as the Maserati, Dharmastratas, outline 8 recognized forms of marriage, which provide a hierarchy of acceptability. These reflect a spectrum from highly approved arranged types to condemned ones.
Ooh,
so
interesting.
The most approved type is called Bharam Vahafa. The highest and most virtuous form, fully arranged by parents, was the bride given a gift, often a dowry. It emphasized duty and was ideal for preserving caste and family honor. Divya Vivaha, arranged where the bride is given to a priest, less preferred than Brahma, but still respectable. Arsha Viva involves a token exchange, e.g. cows, arranged by citizen, but criticized for its transactional nature. And then you have Prapatiya Vivasha. No, we haven't gotten to love marriages yet. Similar to Brahma, arranged with lavish gifts, focusing on mutual consent under parental guidance. So note, this one that required mutual consent, this is under giving your daughter to a priest, under the cow transaction thing here, right? And this is still a partially arranged marriage. Then you have Gangara Vivaha. This is a love marriage form based on mutual attraction and consent without rituals or parental involvement. The story of Dashita and Shikanta in Mahabharata, it is acknowledged but ranked lower, criticized by Mana as promiscuous or suitable only for certain lower sections of society, and seen as a holdover from less regulated times. Okay, so what's the next one down? Seen as about the same as a love marriage?
Okay.
Ashara Vivaha, where the bride is purchased with wealth. So basically slavery, this is seen as about the same as marrying a slave. Then the only thing worse than that is Rakasha Vivaha, which is abduction by force, one of the lowest forms. And then there's Peshara Vivaha, which involves seduction or taking advantage while asleep. So if somebody grapes you, you have to marry them.
Okay.
You know, maybe not the best culture to model for everything, but I did find it to be particularly interesting to read about all of these different types of marriages, and to point out that when people are like, oh, love is universal, or seeing love as a positive thing is universal, it's like, it really isn't. If you actually like do real anthropology instead of this type that's designed to confirm your pre-existing beliefs, generally what I find is, I'd say in about like historic societies, seems like in about 80% love marriages were condemned, at least among upper classes, and love was seen as more of like a sickness. And here what I mean is love's involvement in choosing partners. So this is and note, I'm using love here, this used colloquially. I'm talking about this collection of sort of addiction you get with a person that includes fondness, a feeling of attachment, a feeling of, you know, warmth around them, a desire to spend time with them, and a respect for them. This collection of emotions was seen as a lower reason to get into a relationship than the logical decision made soberly by a council of your elders, basically, or even soberly by yourself, not under the influence of this particular cocktail of chemicals, which again, I note is there. It just doesn't create this feeling of profundity. It's not particularly moral. It's not particularly important, really. And it doesn't, you know, hit you particularly hard all of a sudden or anything like that. Although note, there are differences in human biology. There likely are some people who do feel these emotions hit so all at once due to some sort of hormonal fluctuation in dating that it may cause this. I'd also note, when I'm talking about like Simone is the perfect woman to have felt this, my wife, early in our marriage especially, you were a complete yandere, like very, very obsessed with me. And
who's to say that has changed?
No, you're still very obsessed with me. But we're saying, as somebody like full on yandere mode from an anime or something, and still not getting this secondary emotion that people are hypothesizing and talking about and telling young people they need to feel to be in a relationship. So let's talk about the biology of this, because I found this really interesting. We're going to talk about the different alterations a person can have that causes them to relate to bonding differently.
Okay.
In research on love and attachment, genetic markers like variations in the genes AVPR1A, vasoreceptor, OXTR, oxytocin receptor, COMT, you don't care what these are, and DRD4 are used as proxies for love susceptibility. This refers to an individual's predisposition to form, maintain, or experience romantic bonds, attachment styles, and related behaviors like empathy, pair bonding, infidelity, or reward seeking in relationships. These genes influence neurotransmitter systems. AVPR1A and OXTR regulate vasopressin and oxytocin, hormones key to social bonding and trust, while COMT and DRD4 affect dopamine, involved in reward, motivation, and pleasure. So if we wanted to, it's been leaked now that we have funded research into germline gene editing, in a generation or so, our family, as we become more engaged in genetic engineering and stuff, could make modifications to ourselves or to our offspring to have even less susceptibility to this love emotion.
Yeah. And this kind of, it reminds me of our running theory. And I think a lot of people share this with what causes obesity in modern times. It's not like, it's probably not mostly your difference in metabolism, because as you pointed out, that's at most like how many calories
200
a day?
calories a day,
which can really add up. Don't get me wrong, but like it's not going to produce the amount of obesity that we often see. We think that maybe a larger segment of people, just like their response to food is so much stronger. Kind of like with love, like some people just have a different response to food than others, and you can tell this by like how many people who have you met who are like, well, I would just love to eat. Like if I could have a pill instead of food, I would. And it's hard for me to imagine that, but like for other people, it's that response is not there. So that totally makes sense.
So AVPR1A, the role in love and attachment. This gene codes for the receptor vasopressin, a hormone promoting pair bonding, jealousy, and long-term attachment. Variations affect social behaviors like commitment and marital satisfaction. Key variants: RS3 polymorphism, long versus short alleles. Longer alleles are linked to strong pair bonding. AGAT polymorphism, associated with earlier sexual debut in females. So this one will cause women to have sex at an earlier age or turn down sex less, which I think is really effects and differences. People with longer R3 alleles often report higher partner bonding, fewer relationship problems, greater commitment, and better sexual satisfaction / frequency. They show brain activation in reward and attachment areas, e.g. ventral tegment and VTA, correlated with maintaining romantic love over time, suggesting higher susceptibility to stable monogamous bonds. Those with shorter alleles or their variants, e.g. AGAT, long, may exhibit weaker bonding, higher infidelity risk, and earlier, riskier sexual behaviors. OXR, role in love and attraction, encodes in receptor oxytocin, the cuddle hormone, which enhances trust, empathy, and social bonding. Variants influence responsiveness to key social cues and stress in relationships. GG carriers show a higher sociality, and specific ones of these are linked to empathy, stress, reactivity, and pair bonding, often sex-specific. Individuals with more G alleles tend to have a higher empathy, altruism toward partners, or secure attachment styles. This is displayed through stronger brain responses to attachment regions when viewing their partners, increasing susceptibility to romantic love and stable bonds. Oh, I should look to see where we are on this on Nebula. A allele carries or other risk variants often show lower empathy, higher attachment, anxiety, greater stress reactivity, and reduced emotional well-being. This can lead to anxious or avoidant styles. COMT, role in love and attachment, regulates dopamine breakdown in the brain, affecting reward processing and emotional regulation. Variations influence how rewarding relationships feel. One variant, if you have the VAL allele, higher activity, lower dopamine, or the MET allele, you'll get lower activity, higher dopamine. MET allele carriers, this is the heterozygous ones, or no, there is a heterozygous variant of VAL / MET. So MET allele characters, higher dopamine, often experience greater reward responsiveness, positive affect, and obsessive thinking about partners, correlating with stronger romantic infatuation and brain activity in reward areas.
Wow.
And I note here, obsessive thinking about somebody is clearly, it is something that you feel early in relationships, but it is caused more by NRE than any relationship that I feel about my wife, for example.
Yeah.
For people who don't know, NRE stands for new relationship energy, and it's an emotional state that typically declines with the length of a relationship and would almost be in many people's inversely correlated with the amount of love that they feel with an individual over time. And the core thing that I think causes NRE, in my experience, is the possibility of the partner not liking you. It's like the very high potential upside and
will they or won't they?
high
Yes.
potential downside of not knowing how things will develop. So I see it as actually a chemical that's likely related to chemicals that's affiliated with gambling. And,
Oh.
and that's why you don't see it in long-term partners, because there isn't any longer any like, well, how much better is this going to get? How much worse is this going to get?
Interesting.
Zygotes may seek more novelty, but show less reward from stable bonds, potentially leading to lower relationship satisfaction. And I find this really interesting. The person's relationship satisfaction could just be downstream of their genes. Heterozygotes, Met, frequently exhibit avoidant attachment and inhibited personality.
Wait, so basically you're saying it's ableist for people to be mad at their boyfriends or girlfriends for not feeling love the same way they do.
Yes. No, I'm saying it's ableist to be mad at them for cheating. So, Simone, you're just a bigot if you get mad at me because I'm going out and sleeping with a bunch of people. Heterozygotes frequently exhibit avoidant attachment and inhibited personalities. Then the D4D4, dopamine receptor D4, role in love and attachment, encodes for dopamine receptor involved in novelty seeking and reward. Variants affect motivation for new experiences, relationship fidelity. And what I find so interesting about all of this, by the way, as we go over this, is this means that one day we can edit this stuff. You can edit your partner to make them more loving by the time our kids are older, to have them be less likely to commit fidelity. I mean, who wouldn't want these edits often, right? Like, oh, I'm less likely to go out and sleep with other people. That's great.
And the thing is, too, we can't develop this technology unless we acknowledge that there isn't some magical, intangible property known as love.
We can't develop it, or
yeah, well, if we don't understand or admit that this is just a highly genetic hormonal thing, we can't engineer better versions of it.
I mean, we're well past arguing love isn't magic. I mean, that's like Malcolm in philosophy point number one, love doesn't matter that much. But anyway, key variants, exon 3 has reduced dopamine binding. 7R plus carriers, at least 1-7 repeat, are linked to higher promiscuity, twice as likely to have one-night stands. Wow, twice as likely, 100% more likely to have one-night stands if you have the D4D in a 7-strand repeat. Infidelity, they're 50% more likely to have extra pair partners. And novelty thinking. Like, just imagine you could test for this, right? They show brain activation in reward areas, but lower overall romantic love scores, suggesting preference for short-term bonds and overall relationship attachment. This reduces susceptibility to monogamous love, favoring exploratory behaviors. I would bet Ayla probably has this one. Some people, when we've done our polyamory episodes, you got to keep in mind that some of the individuals who are polyamory might just be literally coded differently than you. And so they may actually have a really hard time maintaining any sort of long-term monogamous relationship without the opportunity for this form of exploration.
Well, and based on how they describe it, it's described as something they just really can't help. Like, I just can't commit to one person. And I think it's really hard for people to understand. They think they're just making it up, or that they're just insufficiently committed to you as a partner.
Well, I mean, I think some individuals get into it when they don't have this and they really shouldn't.
Oh, that's true. No, I mean, a lot of people just try to break up passively. The
article we really need to do, there was this great article in the New York Times recently about this woman complaining that nobody wants to date her, and she was in a polyamorous relationship with her husband and left her for some other guy, and the other guy then told her even beforehand that he was not interested in her, and now she's blaming it on all men, of course.
Oh well.
But anyway, that is my argument there. The other emotions that I said I didn't think was real, another one was jealousy, which I was actually convinced of while I was trying to look up something else related to this. And I was convinced of it by a post by a polyamorous individual.
Oh.
And when I was reading it, at first I was like, come on, you're just whatever, or maybe you don't feel this. And then I thought about it and I was like, no, he's right. Like, if I discount the emotional disgust I would feel and sadness I would feel over losing a relationship with you because you slept around and that made you less attractive to me, which it would. I mean, that's a natural reaction for a lot of guys for evolutionarily evolved reasons. and the anger I would feel towards the individual who did that, that wouldn't be motivated by jealousy. That would be motivated by a very specific emotion. But then I started thinking about jealousy about other things, like somebody who's wealthier than me, or somebody who has more figurines than me, or somebody who has more followers than me. I've never felt whatever this emotion is. I felt like a motivation to catch up to them. Like, oh my God, they were younger than me and they'd already done more. And look at how little I've accomplished in life yet so far. But then I saw it, I was like, I haven't really. So I'll read this because I thought it was interesting. And this is from a blog called Death is Bad. Very rationalist, you can tell. I think that's the real motivator here. Everyone knows the patriarchy is bad for men as well as women, but they don't mention it too much because it's a lot more bad for women. Well, here's one way it's bad for men. You have to pretend to be jealous and bluster about and say you'll attack anyone who touches your mate, because if anyone sees someone other than yourself engage in sexual play with your mate, you are automatically less of a man. You lose status. You can't be taken seriously. You are something to be pitied. F that. I've powered through status seeking, shaming several times already in my life. And every time I've been better, freer, and happier for it. Now I respect people who are in open relationships far more than those who are stuck in the social straitjacket of enforced monogamy. While the limited number of years we have here, with the limited number of years we have here, why would you want to do that with your life? It's kind of sad. And once I said, I let that go and said, F society, this is BS. I actually found that the opposite of jealousy happens. And this is where I disagree with him, because I don't disagree with him. I mean, I just have a different sexual profile than him. I was happy to see my girl getting that sort of pleasure. I would not be, by the way. Why wouldn't you want to see the person you love happy? And more than that, it's a complete turn on for him. And that's why he's okay with it. It's really effing hot. At least that's been my experience. And again, there's different.
It just sounds like his unique form of sexual enjoyment.
Right. And that's why when I first read it, I was like, come on, you have a form of sexual enjoyment which is really unique and not evolutionarily adaptive. It was funny in the comments. He's like, I just can't see the evolutionary reason that people would want their partner to not sleep with other people. We used to live in big tribes where we all shared our wives. And I was like,
really unusual situation.
But in addition to the anthropology not backing him up, it also doesn't make sense. Even if there is partner sharing within a community, you still benefit from punishing a partner for sleeping with other people and sleeping with you more and them less, genetically speaking. No matter how much partner sharing there is in a community, you still benefit from punishing somebody who you've slept with sleeping with other people.
Well, in other words, the guys who did that ended up having more offspring. So you're more likely to have inherited genes that give you that tendency.
Yeah, so no, I don't buy this. But what I do buy, when I started to think about it, and he said jealousy is a social construct, I was like, yeah, jealousy is more of a social thing where I feel that I have a right to be upset with someone for having more than me, but I can choose not to engage with that right. I can just be like, but I'm not going to, right? Like, they have more than me, so what? And as soon as you choose that, you no longer feel that particular emotional output. The other one that we were talking about was, what was the big one? It was forgiveness. I see so many things like, well, I finally forgave my father for unaliving himself, and now I've begun to emotionally heal. And it's like, what do you mean forgave him? Like, he's dead. Like, you can't, you still have the knowledge of the choice he made. Right? You can change how you decide to contextualize it in your head, but that's not really an emotional state.
Yeah.
There's just a choice of contextualization.
Yeah, it's hard for me to. I mean, I understand the definition is to let go of anger or resentment regarding a slight you've experienced, and that sounds good, but it sounds more like, I don't know, an emotional process than anything else. And you can also choose to not feel resentful about something whenever you're ready. So I think that another thing I was wondering about today is loneliness. Everyone's talking about loneliness epidemics and people are lonely, but is that real? I mean, obviously I'm an extreme introvert, so I don't think I've ever felt lonely in my life.
I felt lonely before.
Okay, what does it feel like? Isn't it just a need for stimulation, or isn't it just a desire to fulfill a kind of vision of yourself?
It's tied to your self-image. And if you have a part of a self-image of somebody who has been rejected by others and who is, I mean, I think loneliness in big part is a feeling of rejection plus isolation. Think of it like a claustrophobia like emotion tied to social interaction.
That has more to do with your perception of yourself than any real feeling.
No, it really feels very claustrophobic sometimes, like almost sort of panicky.
Well, that's how I feel when I'm around people. But,
well, other people don't know that emotion, so.
Maybe, we talk about sexuality being something where, with regard to arousal and disgust, there are typical spectrums that people have, but sometimes you get a sign flip. Maybe there are things beyond sexuality where sometimes there are sign flips. Like the evolutionarily average person craves the company of other people because obviously the average person who craved those things survived because they didn't get rejected by the tribe. They invested in it, but maybe I had a sign flip and I crave the rejection of the tribe.
You crave tribal rejection so you can be alone and not have to talk to
me. Yes. But I mean, it's not unheard of for people to experience flips of other forms of arousal versus aversion that are not necessarily evolutionarily to their advantage, like men who find penises really arousing and not vaginas and only want to sleep with men, like it happens. So I don't know. But that's interesting. So I don't know. What would you encourage people to take away from this? Don't ask for love from people, I guess. Stop talking about love. What should people do differently after hearing this?
Well, no, I mean, I think it's know that, you're supposed to pretend when you feel fondness and attachment to somebody, and you will begin to build an addiction to interacting with your partner. That part is real, but don't expect this transcendent emotional state to wash over you at some point in the process of dating or marriage. And don't think that. Now, I would say really importantly, if you're with a partner who believes in love, and don't go into them.
You're just going to have to pretend to believe in it too.
Pretend.
Just say I love you too. Just say I love you too. Okay, guys.
Just say I love you too. But I do think it's important for more and more people to come out and call shenanigans on this.
Shenanigans! Shenanigans!
What's all this?
Officer Barbrady, I would like to reinstate my previous shenanigans. This whole carnival is a ripoff.
Excuse me, but I agree. These rides are really stupid.
Okay, let's calm down. People of South Park, do you declare shenanigans on the carnival people?
Yeah!
Okay, carnival people, do you accept this decree of shenanigans?
What are you talking about? This whole town is screwy.
Well, that settles it. Everybody grab a broom. It's shenanigans!
So that, young people, I think this prevents them from getting into relationships or feeling really dedicated to a partner because they expect some other emotion that is just never going to come.
Mm-hmm. That's fair. Okay, I like that. That's solid advice. Just chill.
And I'm telling you, even without this, marriage is way better than I thought it could conceivably be in terms of the way it makes me feel, the way I feel every day, the way it feels to interact with you or have kids with you or to interact with my kids. I'm saying I feel all of these great things. None of them include whatever this external love emotion is. And despite that, they feel kind of better than the way people describe love feeling, which to me always sounds more just like a drug. And I'm just like, well, that doesn't sound like that pleasant, right? Like it doesn't come with like genuine satisfaction or anything.
When people describe love to me, I get the same reaction I felt when reading Dante's Paradiso, like the part of the Divine Comedy where he's exploring heaven. And I'm just like, this, I don't know. I don't want to go there. This doesn't sound very fun. Just sounds kind of brainwashed, little culty, kind of creepy.
I think I know that so many journalists are going to use this to attack us. They don't even love each other. They
already do. I was just listening to a YouTube video today that was about purity culture and fundamentalist marriages. And then like 53 minutes in, just randomly we get mentioned. We have nothing to do with purity culture, but it was only in the context of us not really loving our children and occasionally beating them. And
now he beats his children. He doesn't love them.
Yeah.
He doesn't love his wife.
We already have that reputation, though. We already have a loveless family. No one will be surprised to discover that we have a loveless marriage. So
just proving the haters right.
That was out of the bag. We're just confirming it on the record, apparently.
I mean, obviously, the alternative to all this is we come from an extremely unique cultural genotype that's just very low on one of these genetic variants. And it wouldn't be surprising. Like, I often mention that we're of the backwoods Puritan heritage groups. Like, those two groups are the predominant ancestry groups of ours. And if any groups was going to have evolved out the love emotion, it would be those two groups. So it could be that other people really feel this. Like,
but see, like, to me, love is living and working together, and the Appalachian, and before that, like, you know, Scottish clan cultures, like, you saw a lot more of that. You saw a lot more family integration, everyone kind of working together, not this isolation that I feel separates people so much. To me, love is integration. It's also so fun to me that you and I have this reputation for lovelessness when the first thing you ever made go viral was your marriage proposal to me, where you commissioned
BuzzFeed, like, top 10 romantic things of the year.
You commissioned 21 pieces of original art of you proposing to me in different styles related to different genres that we like, and we went to the front page of Reddit. And that was, but God, no, we don't love each other.
Do you think this is should we be saving this for Reporter to tell them we don't really love each other? And we think this whole concept's a scam because that'd go viral? Pronatalist couple doesn't love each other.
They've already basically said as such in a bunch of articles. Again, if YouTubers are like randomly, like they can't even, when they run out of weird fundy couples that, you know, they need to show that couples don't love each other, they turn to us because they can't find anyone else who openly apparently
we're the best and the greatest fundy couple because we are the only one bravest enough to tell the truth.
Yeah, they all pretend to love each other. Messed up.
But I think culturally normalizing that this isn't a thing that people feel, or at least people within our cultural group feel, will make it much faster for our kids to get married and find secure partners.
Yeah. To focus on the practical aspects.
All right,
really
love you,
arranged marriage. I love you too.
Steak tonight?
Yeah, steak tonight. Basically same thing as last night, but instead of whole wheat sourdough, I was going to make those flatbreads, but I'm going to instead toast them a lot longer. So they're
do that.
Cook me a bit this time with garlic, because I think it'd be fun to have sort of like garlic flatbread.
Cook a little less of the raw steak and a little more of the cooked steak, because your parents didn't want the additional one, and I did.
Oh, no. So I already told you I froze that, and we're going to use it later, like in a couple weeks to do.
Yeah. Love you to death.
Love you too. I missed you on our normal morning time, and then we have a reporter
because we haven't had our morning walks, and now we have reporters coming.
Guests,
we have our dad over.
Want to talk with you, though. I learned.
I miss you. I miss you when we don't get to spend like our private time together in morning and during. And so, like, this is the only private time we're getting today or yesterday.
Yeah, it just kills me when we don't get it. Indy was mad though too that she missed her walk with you.
She could tell. She gets really angry.
She's learned the word no, so she's like no all morning. But I did learn a new form of prepping that apparently is popular among wealthy tech elite who are into prepping. That had not occurred to me. But I think it's more inspired by horror films than like an actual doomsday scenario. And it is multiple people that were interviewed by this guy who wrote the book, The Haves and the Have-Yachts, which is about the super elite, wealthy people, billionaires. Mm-hmm. They've gotten LASIK because they're like, well, if there's some societal collapse, I won't be able to get a new glasses prescription. And then I'm screwed because I'll be blind. But I'm really thinking of it more from that one scene in The Mummy where the American archaeologist / Yahoo who's trying to find Egyptian treasure loses his glasses while attempting to run away from the resurrected mummy, and he's looking for his glasses, and then the mummy just pulls out his eyeballs, because that's what happens when you don't have LASIK. So
that'd be a great LASIK commercial. Just goes to that scene and then it's LASIK.
Gotta get LASIK.
All right, I'll get started.
You know, I have to represent her since she's not with us in person. She's with us in spirit. I had this like beautiful vision that after I went to get eggs from the chicken coop this morning, that I would pick some blackberries, at least for Torsten to snack on at dinner, and if I could get more, then to make jam.
Okay.
And I'm like, oh, it's gonna be so, scenic.
You got stuck in all the thorns?
Like covered in blood.
I do blackberries with the kids. I basically send them in like a little rabbit in the briar pit. And they're so good at it. They go in and they get them all really easily.
Yeah, whereas I'm covered with scratches. Like, and I was bleeding out there.
This is what toddlers are for. You send them into the briar patch.
Yeah, that's either they're for the mines, they're for the factories.
We have giant blackberry patches on our property that I didn't even plant. I just didn't weed. And so whenever they start growing in any location on our property, I stop weeding in that location.
Yeah. Which means it's a little rough walking around our house.
Yeah.
Our house is very fortified, though. I love that feeling.
On the topic of the Court of Thrones. Oh, Court of Thorns or whatever.
We live our life as a romance novel. But speaking of romance and on the topic of loveless marriages, I actually remember from a young age the extent to which I began romanticizing and desiring a loveless marriage. One of my part of my financial package in college was that I could work for some of my tuition in addition to getting some debt. And I worked at my university honors office as a secretary or receptionist. And one of my colleagues was this gay dude who would just say things that I loved. Like, he'd crack me up. And at one point I was like, oh my God, will you marry me? And he was like, well, it would be a loveless marriage. And I remember I hadn't heard that phrase before or something. And like, I just, I laughed at him or whatever. And we got back to work. But I remember thinking after that, I was like, a loveless marriage. Like, that sounds amazing. Like, what is this institution and how do I get involved? Like, is this like where they work together or something? And
no, did I give you the loveless marriage you always desired? Well, it's a marriage without all the gushy stuff.
We have, we have the sex, we have the romance, like you gave me all that, but then like we lean in to the loveless part. And I didn't realize until today when we were going to do this episode that I was like, oh shit, like I've always wanted this. I've always wanted a loveless marriage. And thank you so much for making this girl's fantasy come to life.
I am here for you. All right, so I'll get started here.
Okay, let's go.
What are you guys doing? Are there going to be any survivors?